He is a lineup lock tight end one. All right. That's going to do it for the top 10 of the tight end position. If you need anyone a little bit deeper on down that list, head on over to ESPN.com/fantasy to be able to see the rest of our Week 11 rankings. Right now, we're going to dive into a rookie ranking reset. If we were to draft top 10 rookies at this point of the season for the rest of the year, where are we going to go here? We're going to do the draft order. Mike, Field, and then me.
Oh, okay.
Mike,
Good.
Field, and then me. Is that what we're going to do?
I think I got it. Yeah, that works because I think I got it easiest.
You're going third. You're going second.
I have the pressure on the first overall pick here, man.
If you're going to take one rookie in fantasy football for the rest of the season, this is not dynasty. This is the rest of this season. Mike Clay, who are you taking?
Yeah, it's interesting because some of the top options here on our board for rookies have they're great, but they've slumped a little lately. It's been a quiet month or so far. I'm going to go with a guy that's been a little quiet as of late and could be looking at a quarterback change this week, which makes me really nervous, but it's Malik Neighbors. The Giants, by the numbers, have the easiest remaining schedule for wide receivers, and that gives me some confidence he'll get back going. He's been wide receiver 20 or lower 4 weeks in a row, but 10.5 targets per game during that span, and we know what his target share looked like even before that when he was dominating in fantasy. So I am nervous about the quarterback situation. But I'm not nervous about the player or the volume or the schedule, so I'm gonna roll with Neighbors.
Can I ask a dumb question?
There's no such thing as a dumb question, so go for it.
If you're nervous about the quarterback situation in Week 11, what were you the first 10 weeks of the season?
I'm more confident. I mean, I don't like I've seen enough of Drew Lock that I'm definitely more worried about that than I am Daniel Jones. I hope maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Probably the best rapping quarterback in the entire NFL, though.
Honestly,
yeah, that's true.
He's got that going for him.
Yeah, I don't know. He subbed in the other week and it did not look good. That's my concern. But again, if Malik Neighbors is getting 10 targets a game against his schedule, I think it'll be enough that he'll deliver.
Yeah. Again, I said this on Sunday during Fantasy Football Now because the game was on London or whatever, Germany game. So we were talking about it. I said it's Monday and Tuesday. Malik Neighbors has become who we thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's remarkably inefficient quarterback play, lack of end zone opportunities, but a ton of targets. A totally worthwhile pick at number 1 overall. To me, there were 2 others to consider here, but I will take Jaden Daniels as my second overall pick. I don't really need to dive too deep into this, although he has regressed a little bit in terms of high-end production. He's got 3 top 5 finishes. He has 5 top 9 finishes. What we haven't seen from Jaden Daniels for 5 straight games is a rushing touchdown. I don't know if that's randomness or if it's perhaps now that he's playing with that rib injury, you know, those short yardage carries at the goal line tend to be very physical and violent, right? Because defenses know they are coming. Perhaps they're being a little bit more protective of them near the goal line. That being said, still too good of a player to go any lower than I think 3rd overall, but I felt good taking him 2nd. Daniel, who are you taking 3rd?
Really quick, it's hard to believe he's been QB9 or worse 6 weeks in a row, Jaden Daniels. It's hard to believe. This is going to be a fascinating test on Thursday night for Daniels against surging Eagles defense, but also for Vic Fangio and the Eagles defense, which has been the best defense in the NFL the last 4 or 5 weeks. How do they look against the best offense they've faced in a while?
For sure. Said that he hasn't had a rushing touchdown in the last 5 games?
5 games, yeah.
That's crazy because Brian Robinson has missed a handful of those games. And if you told me there was going to be no Brian Robinson, I would have assumed he would have found the
Eckler has, 3 during that span?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Jeremy Nichols definitely has stolen some.
Yeah, sure.
Helps basically nobody in fantasy football. We love
3rd.
All right. At 3, I feel like there's only one guy here because at the top, there was a clear top 3 in my mind. I think you guys
felt
had
that way too. Yep.
And for me, it's got to be Brock Bowers.
Oh, that was Theo Johnson. Right.
We are 3 for 3 in terms of players that we thought deserved
my board.
to
Yep.
go. You could also I could have argued in court for Jaden 1, Malik Neighbors.
Agreed.
Splitting hairs.
Yep.
Agreed.
Brock Bowers, 2nd in fantasy points at the tight end position, 2nd in targets, 2nd in receptions, 1st in receiving yards.
Good.
He does only have 2 touchdowns. I'd love to see a little bit more touchdown volume there, but he's on a team that just doesn't score a lot of points, which makes it tough there. So he's more of a chain mover than a touchdown maker. But 7 of his 9 games, he's had over 10.8 fantasy points, which showcases such a high floor at the tight end spot. So give me Brock Bowers at the 3rd position.
Okay, no debates or arguments so far.
Mike, back to you for the 4th pick.
We're doing this like a real rookie draft.
That's right.
I pick first each
That's
time. All right, I'm going to go with the guy that's been pretty boom bust, but he was the top skill player, top non-quarterback picked in April's draft, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Okay.
4 top 30 fantasy weeks, 57th or worse, the other 5. Cardinals receivers, rest of season schedule is 5th easiest, so much like Malik Neighbors, the schedule is better. He's a better quarterback than Neighbors too, which kind of helps his cause a little bit. I know he's been inconsistent, but they're playing well. And I've talked about this before. The Cardinals schedule frees up a lot going forward. And that applies to Kyler Murray too as one of the easiest. So Cardinals offense could be a league winner, going forward. So I'm going to
be a division winner too. They could be the NFC West champ by the time it's all said and done.
Right,
I had him 5th on my board, so I'll get the player that I had 4th on my board next. Tyrone Tracy Jr. from the New York Giants.
I like it.
Positional value, obviously very important here. He is the highest ranked running back in terms of players that we are taking in this draft. I think there's one other back that could come into the mix relatively soon, but Tracy has basically had 6 starts or been the lead back for 6 straight starts. He has 14 or more fantasy points in 4 of those games. He's been a touch less involved in the passing game than you might expect for a player who was a college wide receiver for 4 years, but so impressive as a runner, clearly the go-to guy in that Giants offense. That won't change regardless of who is the quarterback going forward.
And I have them at the 5th easiest running back schedule going forward, too, so I like that. What did you say about another running back coming into the fold?
There might be one more running back that could
a little bit later on in our draft.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
Yep. How crazy is it that when we're doing a rookie redraft here halfway through the season, we've got 2 New York Giants?
No, for all the bad things going, they got a good draft. Yeah. Totally. Yep.
Absolutely. All right. I actually felt like this is where things, you could kind of shift things around here at this spot. The number 6 position. I'm going to go with a wide receiver here.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And for me, it's going to be Brian Thomas Jr.
Right. I had him a little lower, but I had him at 8th, so but not that far.
At 6, yeah.
12th in fantasy points, 11th in receiving yards, tied for 7th in touchdowns, and he does stuff after he gets the ball in his hands. 11th in yards after the catch this season. I don't love the back-to-back duds that he's had. Yep. That has been, it feels like if you're
quarterback change.
Yeah, and that's not been great. I'm hoping that even with that Mac Jones and him can develop some chemistry, because we've just seen, the eye test tells me how unbelievably talented Brian Thomas Jr. is. Clearly the wide receiver 1 of this offense, especially with Christian Kirk on IR. Gabe Davis is a distant 2 to me. It's not even close. So I think if I'm going to pick someone else in this offense as a rookie, just given the skill set, for me it's going to be Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this on Sunday at FF Now. Brian Thomas is this year's Brandon Ayuk. It's just the target share hasn't been massive, but he's been a little inconsistent, but he's just been carried by elite efficiency across the board in every category. It's not sustainable. Like, we need more targets and good quarterback play, and I'm not sure we're going to get that going forward. I also have the Jags at the hardest rest of season schedule, so that makes me a little nervous there.
Yeah, I had him at 8, but it's not, we're 8 versus 6. It's not a huge difference. Who do you have now at 7 then?
7, I'm going a guy who's 5th on my board, Ladd McConkey. 1 weekly finish better than 18th, which makes me nervous. The ceiling hasn't been there. He's been slumping as of late. I do have the Chargers with the 6th easiest schedule going forward this season. I think he's a player. And again, I think the game script is going to – the Chargers are good, right? But I don't think the game scripts are going to be as good every week, to the point where, again, they're number 1 in percent of snaps where they've been ahead on offense. That maybe it's 7th going forward or something. That'll free up more pass attempts, and I think that's going to help someone like Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnson has stolen some touchdowns, which is fine. That may keep happening, but I think McConkey's the one there, and he's just going to continue to get better, and Justin Herbert's playing better and producing more fantasy points, so I still feel pretty confident in McConkey.
Yeah, I had him 9th on my board, so you're still depending upon a touchdown for Ladd to really be worthy of a flex consideration, because while they could well throw the football more, they're not throwing it so much where he has consistently seen 8 or 9 targets in a game.
Only one game over 7 targets this year.
So my 6th player still available at pick number 8. It's Bo Nix, who, by the way, has been awesome. And I know that quarterbacks, you might say, hey, you're only starting 1. We can find other options. But he's now 9th in quarterback fantasy points. He's top 5 in quarterback rushes, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. He's been a weapon with his legs. The efficiency down the field is getting better for Bo Nix. I'm in on Bo.
Yeah, I like Bo Nix here. Quarterback 4 in air yards per pass attempt. He's pushing it down the field, and he's getting stuff done with his legs. It feels like they're being uber aggressive in this offense to try to be able to find his wide receivers deeper down the field. I do want to see, and this is just like it'd just be fun. I want to see him connect a little bit more with his college teammate, Troy Franklin. I feel like there's been a couple of shots that they've just been off with each other, but I would love to see a little bit more there. If I had to go pick number 9 then, you mentioned there may be another running back on this board. I'm going to go with Bucky Irving.
Yeah, next up for me.
Double-digit touches in every single game since week 2. Even with Rachaad White in this backfield, 5 games with at least 12.5 fantasy points. I don't think you're starting him as an RB1. At best, he's a low-end RB2, depending on how many teams are on a bye. He's more likely a flex play for me. But even with Rachaad White stealing the majority of this passing game work, I feel like not only Bucky Irving having standalone value in this offense with how the Bucs are playing, but if Rachaad White were to miss any time, he would easily be a guy that we would be looking at as a potential starter in fantasy football. So I like Bucky Irving here at number 1.
Yeah, I like that. And he's had involvement in the passing game as well. The touches, the fantasy points, the touchdowns, the efficiency have all been there for him. And sometimes I talk about it, including just during the segment, like, this guy's gone from like a hard schedule to an easy schedule. The Bucs are literally going from the hardest running back schedule so far to the easiest running back schedule so far going forward this year. And they've been good. I mean, they have 2 fantasy relevant running backs with the hardest schedule so far this season.
Easy.
So I think there's room maybe for both of these, kind of a mini Montgomery Gibbs sort of thing where they're both flex options. So
Mike,
I like it.
You're going to round out the top 10 here. Tell us why you're going with Jake Bates as number 10.
Can I propose? Oh, good call. Can I propose the way that we actually select number 10?
Yes.
Because Mike would get 4, you and I would both get 3.
Well, we'd go 12. We've said we have a few minutes. We're going to go 12.
Okay.
Are you deep enough to do that?
Other
What's
that,
your idea?
Or I was going to say, each of us nominates a player for 10th, and if we get 2 votes or 3 votes for number 10, that player reaches the graphic. If we only get each of us votes for a different person, then Tyler, our producer, can put on the graphic the player from the host that he likes the most.
Okay.
Oh,
and make our case.
tough. Yeah. That's going to be
All right. Well, my vote. There's a couple options here. Very close. I'm gonna go with pedigree here. Rome Odunze.
All right. Well, Tyler made it easy on you. Don't worry. That was my pick.
Cheers.
Rome.
I was going to say Rome Odunze.
Oh, really? All 3 of us. Okay, that's no fun. Yeah, look, I think he's showing signs of trending up a little bit. Obviously, a coordinator change there, so maybe that'll help things. 6+ targets in 3 straight, a 23% target share. The Bears receivers have the second easiest schedule going forward. It's funny how a lot of these rookies, their schedule is either super hard or super easy going forward, just the way it worked out, just a coincidence. But I think perhaps better days ahead for Rome Odunze, so he's my pick here.
Yeah, I'm actually going with Rome for a lot of what Mike said, and this is maybe the kind of thing that come back and bite you in the butt. But this coordinator change feels like it could represent some like fairly seismic shifts here for Chicago.
Yeah.
And they were at like basically rock bottom to the point that like it doesn't matter what their plans were, like just scrap them all right now. Like start from scratch. And if you're trying to kickstart this offense, and I would say this, technically the Bears have a chance to make the playoffs this season. They're 4-5.
You don't want to make the playoffs if you're a Bears fan.
No, you do. But what matters right now is can we get our quarterback at a place for him to reach his peak, which is extremely high. Okay, this guy was the number 1 overall pick for a reason. If that means getting Rome Odunze on the field a ton more at the cost of maybe a guy like Keenan Allen, I know they don't play the exact same way, but like focusing on Rome Odunze more as opposed to the 31-year-old Keenan Allen in the final year of his contract, that's okay, if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
We've already seen some changes, not just the coordinator change. They've released Nate Davis, a guy who signed a $33 million contract with them this morning. Like, basically everything is on the board right now for Chicago, so I'm going Rome Odunze as well.
Keenan Allen is actually 32 years old, so he's even older than what you had suggested.
Right. Yeah, 32. So anyways, my point is, like, maybe one of the thought processes for Thomas Brown, their offensive coordinator, is, you know what? Let's play the kid. Because number 15, when we feature him, has been excellent. He has 2 games with over 100 yards this season, does Rome Odunze. Get him the football more often, good things can happen. This offense needs good things to happen.
Yeah, 6 for 112 and a touchdown in week 3 against the Colts, and 5 for 104.
Yeah,
in
only
week
good
9
games
against the Arizona Cardinals. They were the only good games, but in part, like it highlights again the reason why he was such a high pick in the actual NFL draft to pair with Caleb Williams. Outside of the joke that I think Jake Bates should be in consideration here because he's 14 for 14 in field goals, 32 out of 33 in extra points.
14th in fantasy points, though, or something?
I think he's top 10 in the kicker position.
Well, anyway, yeah.
Hey, man, if you want to say kickers don't matter, that's on you, Mike Clay. But I feel like coming out of that Texans game, I believe kickers are a very important part of this game. However, outside of picking a potential another quarterback, I love Drake May. I would love to see what he's going to continue to do the rest of the season. But Rome Odunze just feels like he has the best pedigree to potentially be one of those guys. A lot of times we talk about at the end of a season, do we see a rookie start to develop that chemistry? Maybe it takes a little bit for things to get going, right? And when you look at the pedigree that this guy has, it feels like second half of the season, this could be one of those situations where Rome Odunze could develop some fantasy potential here for fantasy managers down the stretch.
It'll be sweet to see. It's been a while since we had one of these, but like I know Daniel will recall this. Do you guys remember like around this time as rookie season, Amon-Ra went nuclear, and you were like, holy crap. Like,
last 4 games of the year, he absolutely crushed it,
Crushed it. So maybe it was a little bit later on than right now, but like J.K. Dobbins finished like a madman as a rookie as well. Like we've seen these guys
Hayden Reed kind of did that as well in his rookie
Hayden Reed
season.
got hot last year as well, right? So